So, hello, I'm Michael Heppel and I am joined by Brass Monkey, a solo artist, singer-songwriter. In 2019, he released his first two singles, Breadline and Nowhere. We are going to talk about all those and loads more about his career so far. So, Brass Monkey, thank you very much for joining me. How did your music career start?
Thanks very much for having me, Michael. It started out on the open mic circuit, not as a deliberate path towards becoming a musician, but just for my own amusement. But I met a lot of great people around Sunderland and then around the northeast who were incredibly supportive. I learned a lot from them. They encouraged me to start writing original material. I enjoyed it more and more. The more I put into it over time, the more I got out of it. And eventually I started getting gig offers. And then I met an open mic host called Neil Gibson, who did a lot of gigs around the northeast, who is also a producer and offered to record my tracks and help me add band backing. And the response has been incredible. I'm really amazed by it.
Oh, that's so cool, mate. So, which open mic sessions do you perform at the most? And what was the initial reaction from the audience at those sessions?
When I very first started, there was a night run by Terry Gorman at the ISIS. That hasn't been gone for quite a while now. But he and his girlfriend were the first ones to encourage me to try originals out in public. It was quite a quiet night a lot of the time. The audience was very supportive. In all honesty, I wasn't that good at the time. But I've always been able to do deep vocals reasonably well. And there were enough people that gave me really positive feedback that encouraged me to keep going. And you're always going to get some negative feedback as a musician, no matter who you are. I suppose I was quite lucky early on that I didn't really run into that and everyone was really supportive. So by the time I encountered some of the negative feedback, I already had a thicker skin, and a lot of people who'd encouraged me to keep going and develop into a musician at that point. Because if it had happened early on, I probably would have just not carried on.
So, like you say, in 2019, you released your first two singles, Breadline and Nowhere. What did both tracks mean to you? In the eyes of, where did they kind of come from?
In all honesty, I didn't have a massive amount of thought about the tracks before writing them. They seemed to be intuitive or to come to me themselves, and I wasn't really trying to put meaning. When I write, I just try and make something that sounds good, something that I would stamp my feet to, something that I would nod my head to. Try to emulate grunge or classic rock, but it seems to come out bluesy, and the lyrics seem to have more meaning than I originally intended to put into them. I suppose my subconscious is writing things that I didn't really know I wanted to say. But Breadline is essentially, it's about difficult times, it's about austerity, and there is a bit about gambling in there. I'm not really a gambler myself, but I suppose it's a metaphor for the gamble of life at the moment. When people start out their lives at the moment, the job market's constantly changing. They don't know if their chosen career is going to exist in 10 years' time. So absolutely everything's a gamble at the moment, and a lot of them don't pay off, and there's a lot of people suffering. And I suppose Breadline is an aggressive, optimistic take on hard times. It's to help someone going through a really hard time find that angry determination and to enjoy themselves even when they've got no reason to, if that makes sense.
That's so relatable for myself, to be honest with you there, my mate. I took a massive gamble myself early in September to go to Australia for a year. People who follow my page, they'll know that themselves. But yeah, literally, who would have thought 6 months down the line that the coronavirus was going to bring us home after 5 weeks? Anyhow, back to your so, did you receive any recognition from from either track, as in what happened when you got radio airplay?
Well, I started out on Spark Sunderland. It turned out Hannah from Spark had seen me a lot of open mic nights. And when you play open mic nights, you feel like you're playing to the same three musicians, each time, and you honestly feel like no one's looking or no one's listening. But it's amazing how many people end up hearing you all the time. So yeah, I had no idea. A few radio DJs had actually heard me and were familiar with the tracks, but after that it just kind of snowballed, and I ended up on national stations like Fantasy Radio UK, Union Jack Radio. I ended up on a college radio chart in America. I got to number 1 on the WKW 98.6 AM Cram Top 40 with my first single. With my second one, I got to number 3 on KB Radio Canada Top 25. Number 4 on the Banks Radio Australia Top 50. Oh yeah, I got the number 4 on the eTunes UK Top 25. So yeah, I've been in indie charts in 4 countries, and it still doesn't really seem real. But it's led to the most real thing in my life that's come out of it will be supporting Ryan McCombs at Think Tank. He was the lead singer of Soil and Drowning Pool, and I've always been a massive fan of Drowning Pool, so it was a bit surreal to meet him and be able to support him. But yeah, I could not have planned or believed that I'd get the reception I have, and I'm extremely grateful, but I'm also extremely paranoid about future releases. And is it going to be accepted as in the same way or as well? Especially because I've got a couple of different style of tracks that I want to experiment with, but I didn't know how my first one would be received, so all I can do is put it out and see what the world thinks of it.
Some great achievements there, Brass Monkey, some great achievements indeed. So which other musicians do you look up to then?
I've always tried to emulate Dave Grohl, and when I didn't know how to stand or where to put my feet or where to put my hands on stage, because you become very conscious when the entire room's looking at you, I actually started off just standing like him and taking notes from him, but apparently he took notes from Bob Mould himself, so there's nothing new under the sun. But yeah, I'm inspired by him. I try to emulate him as much as possible, but I get accused very often of sounding like Eddie Vedder or Nick Cave, and it's not what I was aiming for, but they're very, very flattering comparisons. I suppose more indirectly, I'm influenced by The Doors, B.B. King, Queen, AC/DC, just a various mix of classic rock and a little bit of blues thrown in there as I got to know more about music and to appreciate this style more. I've seen advice from Steve Vai that always sticks with me, the way he describes lingering on a note or concentrating on the feel of it and becoming in tune with the guitar instead of trying to play 3 notes as fast as you possibly can, and to instead of trying to impress someone, to just try and express feeling, and that really resonated with me.
Some good advice there. I know you were just saying before about being a little like paranoid to release more singles and things like that, when obviously they have getting such good achievements in charts and things like that. But have you got any more plans to release any more singles or even an EP?
My producer's still not taking appointments at the moment, so I'm looking at other people to work with, and I'm going to be recording a dance track next Tuesday with a friend that wanted to have. He originally wanted to remix one of my blues rock tracks as a dance track, and it's been too long since I released, so I suggested it's recording a new track with him. Like I say, I've got no idea how it'll be received. It's completely different to what I've done before, but I like it. It makes me want to dance, so I'm hoping it'll have that effect on other people. I know there aren't exactly many dance floors at the moment, but I really hope that it will have people dancing around their kitchens.
Well, you don't know until you try. That is the saying, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
If you could play any venue, anywhere, where would it be and why?
I would love to play Glastonbury, any of the stages, just because I would love to experience it as an artist. The playing it part would be fantastic, but I would just love to watch the other bands experience the venue as well. Glastonbury's a great place, but I'd love to be able to go there and be close to, a clean toilet that you don't have to queue for 3 days for. You know what I mean? As an artist, you'd have all the good side and none of the bad side of it, and that would be absolutely amazing, I think.
Whenever you see Glastonbury on the telly as well, it does look really, really good, doesn't it?
It does look fantastic, yes, but there was one year, and I didn't go, but there was one year where, the parts that you really wouldn't want to flood and overflow did flood and overflow, if you remember that in the news, and I wouldn't want to have been next to that at that time.
I'm not going to lie, it's somewhere I've never been, but I've really fancied as well, just to go and experience it.
I've only been there once, and it's incredibly. It is actually really expensive, especially when you add in the going down there and eating over the time there as well. So, there was one of the acts there. It was a duo. I can't remember who it was, but they told a story about going to Glastonbury and climbing in because they didn't see the point if they weren't going to climb in, because the entire ethos of the place was to be rebellious as far as they were concerned. And they spent some time there, then got caught and kicked out, and they promised each other that they wouldn't go back unless they were playing there. And 2 years later, they were playing there. And that just seemed like a great way to do it.
Incredible, isn't it? So yeah, if anyone wants to find out more about you, Brass Monkey, where can they find you on social media?
It's both easy and difficult to find me depending on what you're doing. Unfortunately, there's a lot of pubs called Brass Monkey. There's a Beastie Boys track and an 80s folk band. So if you're on Google, the easiest way is to search Funk Monkey Metal with no spaces, all one word. That's Funk Monkey Metal. And that'll bring up all of my data. Or if you're on a streaming service, if you search Brass Monkey Breadline, my artist name and the name of my first track, you will find me straight away.
There you go. Doesn't get any easier than that, does it?
Well, you would think so, but it's if I try to tell this to people, they always put spaces in. It's one of those things where it's easy if you get it right, but it's very easy to get wrong. And until I get a Wikipedia entry, I'm more visible on web searches than I used to be. It was very, very difficult when I started out, and I'm starting to become a little more visible now. But I'm still rarely the first result. And when you're trying to get people to listen to you, you know what it's like yourself. If it's within 1 or 2 clicks, people will listen. If it's within 5 or 6 clicks, people won't bother. And it's just the fast-paced world we live in now.
That is very, very true. And then finally, Brass Monkey, is there anything that you would like to mention that I haven't covered?
Not really. I did get a commended entry in the UK songwriting competition. Might be worth mentioning. I was Artist of the Week on SLE Radio, featured artist on the OFI Monday radio show, and last week I was featured artist on Decade's Best Radio in America. I really should mention I'm in the voting at the moment for Artist of the Month on Mixtape Radio International. I'm in second place, and I'm about 40 votes behind first place, so I'm not likely to win, but I'm going to keep trying as much as I can. If you do get time to vote for me, you can vote up to once a day. The easiest way to find that is from my Twitter, and on all social media, I'm Funk Monkey Metal.
So that's Funk Monkey Metal, yeah?
That's the one, yeah.
Is it the first post that's on there?
Yeah, it'll be in my pinned tweet. It'll have my Spotify profile and the link to vote at MTRI chat. It'll be in the first tweet on my page, so that's the easiest way to find it.
Well, let's just hope this chat gets you into first place.
Fingers crossed, that would be absolutely amazing.
It would indeed. Brass Monkey, thank you very much for taking the time out to talk to me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks very much for having me on, Michael.
No problem. Take care. Thank you, mate.
Cheers. Bye.